The ultimate Armageddon machine, inside Russia's doomsday nuclear train. Today, you have been granted exclusive access to one of the most secretive and controversial machines in the world, Russia's doomsday nuclear train. Although it may appear to be an ordinary train, in reality, it is one of the most dangerous weapons ever created. This train carries 3 intercontinental ballistic missiles, each armed with 10 warheads. If used, this train could obliterate either the entire east or west coast all at once. The location of this train remained unknown on the vast Soviet rail network. The story behind why the Soviets constructed such a weapon is what we will discuss in today's video. Join us as we investigate the RT-23 Maledits missile, otherwise known as the nuclear ghost train. During the 1960s, American espionage missions conducted at high altitudes had uncovered the precise locations of Soviet nuclear missiles, which posed a significant challenge. The Americans knew exactly where the missiles were located, and in the event of a first strike, they had a small opportunity to destroy most, if not all, of the Soviet nuclear weapons before they could be launched. The U.S. Navy, its bases and allies had surrounded the USSR, leaving them vulnerable to a first strike by the U.S. that could eliminate their nuclear arsenal and any bargaining power they had as a superpower. However, Moscow still had one card to play: the vast territory of the entire Union. If they could find a way to launch nuclear weapons from a mobile platform, it would be difficult for the Americans to locate and eliminate it, thus restoring the balance of power. In the 1980s, the Russians initiated a top-secret rail project for this purpose, which was intended to be kept hidden from everyone. The alarming aspect of this train is that it appears to be an ordinary train. The combat rail-based missile complex is made up of 17 rail cars, which include 3 modified M62 locomotives, 3 launch wagons with 2 support wagons each, a diesel and lubricant wagon, and 4 rail cars for the crew. These cars are disguised as either passenger or refrigerator cars, making it difficult to discern the combat train from a normal one. It would be a challenging task to locate and target these trains, as they can travel at high speeds and cover a distance of 1,000 kilometers per day during combat deployment. The Soviet missile train was remarkable not only for the train itself, but also for a new method of launching nuclear rockets. Unlike foreign nuclear launching train programs that focused on the trains themselves, the Soviets began by developing a new way of launching rockets. They were the first to create cold launch rocket technology, which is different from the conventional hot launch method. At cold launch, the rocket is launched from a silo or container using compressed gas before the main engine is ignited. This allows for safer launches from submarines, ships, or missile silos, and the silo can be reused after launch. The system also includes course correction boosters to keep the rocket on track. Presently, the majority of intercontinental ballistic missiles are launched using this method, and some anti-aircraft artillery systems, such as the Russian Tur, operate in a similar manner. This technology allows for ICBMs to be launched from virtually any location, which was a significant advantage for the Soviets, who possessed the necessary knowledge and strategy. The SDI program during the Reagan administration, which was also known as the Star Wars program, aimed to render the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons ineffective and restore the U.S.'s superiority. The program was initiated as Reagan believed that the concept of mutually assured destruction was a suicidal course of action. In response to the American weapons, the Soviet Union initiated 2 major projects called Topol and Maledits. The purpose of these projects was to transport and conceal their nuclear weapons across the country, as anything unseen is impossible to destroy. While the Topol missile platform is well known, it is the RT-23 that was developed into 3 variations, including a railway-based version that is being discussed today. However, due to its complexity and high costs, the idea of a wheeled vehicle-based version, called the MAZ-7907, was abandoned. Instead, Engineers focused on the other two variants to ensure they could be deployed quickly. The development of these missiles was led by Eugene Bureau, a renowned figure in missile technology who is currently based in Ukraine. It is worth noting that the same bureau responsible for creating the Zenit rockets and other ICBMs was also tasked with developing the RT-23 missile into a carrier rocket for space missions. However, their request for additional funds was denied. It is unfortunate that the Russians were solely focused on firepower, as one can imagine the potential of a secret train launching a rocket into space. The trains of death were introduced in the late 1980s, and ground-based silos were built mostly in Ukraine. The missiles had a lifespan of approximately 15 years, and were one of the first weapons to be included in the START treaties after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. As part of the treaty, all silos in Ukraine were destroyed, and the RT-23 trains were not permitted to operate on the railway network during times of peace. In 2003, the Russians began dismantling their missile trains as the missiles were approaching their lifespan limit. The missile complex was officially retired in 2005. However, it was reported that the Russians started to develop a new nuclear missile train, but it was reported that due to lack of funding, the project was halted in 2017. Similarly, the U.S. had also planned a similar nuclear missile program called Project Peacekeeper Rail Garrison in the early 90s, which was abandoned shortly afterwards. But there may be more to these projects than what is publicly known. Knowing Russian military-industrial complex, it's highly likely that these trains are still roaming around the West Russian country, and maybe even some of its puppet states. And if you want to follow these developments closely, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell. Also, don't forget to check the other videos on this channel, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.